Gods! I can't decide if this is a great winter or a terrible one. Normally we are bored to death, but my brain is just mush. I was never good at the whole school thing, Sapphire lamented, as she let her fingers work instead of her weary mind. She felt so ungrateful, but it was hard work trying to decipher the inscrutable teachings of Tom's batshit insane people. It was hard enough to even try to understand what was being said when they were speaking like normal people. Then you came across something called a turbo encapulator, and what fucking hope was there of knowing how to write that with runes? Sapphire had even considered asking for extra kitchen duty, or maybe cleaning work, because she would feel extremely guilty staring at a wall for 6 hours while everyone else worked their knuckles to the bone. Luckily for her, Ray hadn't been cleaning when she found her. She had been sewing with Esmeralda in the older Huntress's room. The only reminder of Tom's crazy inventions and ideas was a small speaker playing a simple, jaunty tune in the corner, with Essie humming along contentedly.
"Does Lancaster not have time to help you, perhaps? I am sure she would find it very interesting. She always finds a way to make time for books."
"Oh, she is. She is actually looking for another book Tom wants us to look at, but we couldn't find it. Something about how strong things are. But Tom said it was called Statistics. It sounds more like something Dakota would use to work out the keep shares."
"Who is to say with his teachings? Dakota still laments about him continuing to invent new kinds of mathematics when she finally thinks she has understood what he is teaching at the board."
"Yeah, I am glad I got out of that one. I didn't understand a single thing going on."
"It only made things worse when Adita seemed able to speak the same strange language. Kakashi had to give up even relaying what they were saying. There was no sense to be made at all."
"I know that feeling. Most of the time Lancaster and I end up staring at each other in confusion, then shrugging and carrying on with the text. Did you know that it is possible for there to be no air at all somewhere? Just nothing at all?"
"I suppose that is how you choke in a cave, isn't it? I remember hearing about that being something to be careful of from a man who used to be a miner once."
No, that would be bad air. This is no air at all. Fire won't burn, and if you put your finger inside of it, it swells and turns blue. It might also freeze. I honestly don't know. Lancaster was still trying to work out if it was heretical to write down, because it says space is just a vacuum, which means there is no air, and space is what they call the heavens, where the gods are. So I think you would choke and die from going to heaven.
"Surely the souls are above such mortal concerns,"
Essie replied, calmly as ever, utterly unbothered by Sapphire's irate disposition.
"And one should never try to fly to see the gods, or to get closer to them. Perhaps this is why."
"I always thought it was because they would smite you for trying to leave the world before your time." "I know a few churches who definitely didn't agree they shouldn't try to get closer to the gods. Just look at the royal palace. It is raised as high over the city as you could be," Ray interjected.
"I think building spires and windows in your roof is fine, Ray, but just because your island flies higher doesn't mean you are closer to the gods."
"Sounds like something an ocean scraper would say," Sapphire chuckled, content to let the worries drain away. She didn't need to teach them about the craziness of Tom or of humans. They knew enough to not ask questions, or try to learn more. What they had was plenty.
"Don't be hard on them. They have enough to deal with as is. Terrible storms, blistering temperatures, not to mention the wildlife. A terrible fate to have your forest all but devoured by a swarm of giant sky beetles."
"Yeah, I know. Things are much better up here, safe in the clouds," Sapphire joked. Esmeralda chuckled and shook her head, while Ray looked like she was trying to work out how to tell Sapphire gently that they were not safe in the slightest. "It is a joke, Ray, don't worry. I know what life is like out here. I'm sure things will only get more exciting as we move forward now." "But we should be ready, right? With Tom's inventions, the Inquisition, Jarrex, maybe Tigwan, if we are lucky."
"And whoever Tom's mystery friend is,"
Esmeralda said, in a voice that betrayed she knew more than they did, and she enjoyed that fact. Delicious gossip. If there was anything Essie lived for, it was that. Even if she tended to keep anything too important to herself, and possibly Dakota, should there be the need. "Oh?" Sapphire asked leadingly, raising an eyelash. "I take it Kakashi has been busy."
"He certainly has. Tom managed to make friends with a young pair of travellers, one young woman not even Fengi's age, and a young white dragon. Apparently they do not care much for the Inquisition, so they decided to leave before a certain someone woke up."
"Shh, Essie!" Ray exclaimed, trying and failing to sound hushed. "What if she hears?"
I believe she already knows. If not, she shall soon. She has been rehearsing questions for Tom.
What do you mean rehearsing? Trying to sound as important as she can and speak clearly with her chin raised to the ceiling? Sapphire questioned sarcastically.
She didn't hold the highest of opinions of the Archivist, but to give her credit where you could, they hadn't needed to deal with her since waking up, or really much at all before going to sleep.
She probably got told to shut up and not make things worse by Jelena, even if she is hardly any better.
No, actually,
Esmeralda replied, much to Sapphire's surprise and Ray's cautious delight.
She has been practicing in front of a mirror and taking notes on if she seems to be giving an order or asking a question. It is most adorable, if you ask me.
Shh, Essie. What if she hears? You will hurt her feelings.
If you wish to keep things to yourself, you shouldn't be running around listening to what others have to say all day.
That's a little rich coming from you, isn't it? Sapphire asked jokingly. Esmeralda doing her best to look wholly innocent of any such alleged crimes.
Oh, relax. She should be studying right now. She's only one woman, and magic comes at a cost.
Studying? How do you know that? Is she studying something about people? Maybe a puma has some stories that can help her, Ray said, trying to be helpful. It is never too late to change for the better.
Oh, no. She is studying Sapphire's notebook. She always leaves it with the book she is working on at the study's desk.
Sapphire just blinked a few times, thinking back to said notebook, neatly splayed out across an open book of Tom's. She was still trying to make head or tails of the one he had given her on glass and glass tubes that did things. If Pauline was trying to understand it from Sapphire's half-assed incoherent notes, complete with little drawings in the margins, I almost feel sorry for the woman for once. After a moment's contemplation, she snapped out of it. Hang on, why? She can ask you anything she wants.
But she doesn't trust the answer. Besides, you might get it wrong.
But she cannot read Tom's books. No one has even tried to tell her how English even works.
Correct. But remember, Sapphire, she is an archivist. She writes things down.
Maybe she is just making copies to make sure nothing is lost, Ray added, ever optimistic. It is her job, after all. I know she's been making copies of all sorts of things. Remember all the copies she had the people down in the caves make? Tom got a lot of them, but she has even more. I carried box after box for her of parchment. She takes it very seriously.
Maybe. I hadn't actually thought of that, Esmeralda admitted, to Sapphire's shock. She doesn't mumble to herself like so many people. She has been giving Kakashi such a hard time.
Where is he, by the way? Out spying for you? Haven't seen him doing kitchen duty for a while, Sapphire questioned. Or is he sleeping to try and recover his strength?
Oh, now, I believe he and Rachuk are scheming. The captain wants to know of every move Pauline makes,
Essie explained sagely, as she merrily ran her needle.
Truth be told, I think he fancies her.
The room went dead quiet as Ray and Sapphire both stared at Esmeralda, who acted like she hadn't just dropped a fresh carcass on them from above. Pauline? Rachuk? You are quite sure? Sapphire challenged. She's...
single-minded, utterly focused on her task, and her goal to the point she disregards nearly everything and everyone else? No?
Gods, it makes so much more sense when you put it like that.
Yes. Now, if only she cared for our well-being, I'm sure she would be very well liked here,
Esmeralda carried on, betraying that she did perhaps not think overly highly of the plausible union. Maybe he, could teach her how to, care. Ugh, that sounds so evil when you say it like that.
I am afraid I have more faith in her bending poor Rachuk to her will than the other way around. It would be like two islands crashing together to determine who has the right of way. I do not think it shall last if it ever comes to pass,
Essie dismissed, leaving Sapphire even more confused. Wait, so you think he likes her, but you don't think they will like each other, and that is a good thing?
Gods, no. I think he sees himself in her. You should never marry your mirror image. Not even you, Sapphire.
Sapphire blinked a few times at that, trying to determine if that was a compliment or an insult. Essie had told her she was a little bit self-important sometimes. Not like it was her fault everyone else fell short so much of the time. In the end, she took it for the compliment it probably was, nodding contentedly. I do set a very high bar after all, and even that is not high enough. Wait, hang on. Was that a jab at Maiko? Sapphire turned to look at Essie with suspicion in her eyes, and all she could tell was that the older woman was greatly amused to watch the reaction out of the corner of her eye. As silence reigned for a moment, Ray seemingly got uncomfortable and decided to break it by holding up 2 flaps of blue leather sewn together, the final result yet to reveal itself. I was working on this as well, actually. I don't know if you have seen it, Sapphire. Sav turned to look, not finding anything familiar about the simple, though admittedly nice enough looking leatherwork. It looked like their own handiwork, though, rather than the fine silks and fabrics being used for the future uniforms, currently laying across their laps. It is for Tom. Jackie asked me to help. She is so very busy helping Tom and her mother. It took Sapphire a moment to catch up before breaking out. Oh, I see. The clothes for the guy. It is about time he got something more proper and local. Essie nodded in agreement.
Indeed. It is all well and good dressing like you are from a different world, but sometimes you might want to show where you truly belong.
Yes, I think it is safe to say he isn't planning on going anywhere. Remember when Nanook was so worried he would run away, she made him take an oath right on the spot to remain?
I am still surprised that worked, but I would not have been surprised if Tom had broken those vows without a second thought. If he wanted to leave, that is.
Probably. Besides, he likely didn't understand half of what was going on. Sapphire chuckled, harkening back to those strange new days. The beginning of an era, it felt like now. Back then it was just chaos. No one had any clue what the morning might bring. Now she had a study guide to follow, of all things. It must have been wild back then, Ray added, not having been there to witness things until they started to calm down a touch. But I am still very happy to have gotten here in time for all this. She held up her work, even if I am not that good at sewing. You're better than me, Sapphire countered with a chuckle, looking down at her own work, left all but idle by the conversation. I might need to cut this up and try again. Is this crooked? She asked, holding up the seam for Essie to see. Esmeralda squinted at it for a moment, then nodded, leaning back in her chair again.
Yes, you should try again.
Sapphire just sighed and reached for the Ripper. A shame, but oh well. Are you doing better, Ray? I think it is going well, but there is so much to do. Jackie wants to give him a whole outfit, and there is the magic armor to do as well. But I won't touch that. Ooh, no, won't do that, she repeated, shaking her head as she carried on sewing. It must be worth more than I have ever owned.
It's worth more than any of us have ever owned.
Essie nodded absent-mindedly as she checked her own work, holding it up to the light of the oil lamp. Well, except for Tom, he must be very wealthy, just in his own special way.
And the Bismartis, naturally. But still, more than any ordinary person could ever afford. It is the mark of nobility, after all. It almost makes it seem like Jackalope is to a noble.
I could not ever imagine Jackie as a noble, could you? Lady Furlong is currently not here. She is having a drinking contest with a sergeant. Sapphire chuckled. It was quite the mental image, though she had certainly heard of worse lords and ladies than what Jackie may turn into if given power, even if ruin was sure to follow.
I am sure Shiva would keep her in line, for a while at least. From what I know, we should be happy to have her. We are so used to the Bismartis treating us as one large extended family. Not many are so lucky.
Ray nodded in agreement. Yes, of course. I have never thought of a noble as one of us. Is that a city thing? If so, I am very sorry.
There is nothing to be sorry for. It very much is. But keeps can vary greatly too. Some the lord and lady won't even speak to anyone less than silver in rank, let alone listen to what they have to say. Others are much more like here.
One big family, Sapphire reaffirmed, Esmeralda nodding in agreement. I would have left long ago if it wasn't true.
Remember your oaths, Sapphire. It is not too simple to just leave once you have settled at a keep.
Well, you have until you make copper at least, though if your name is Tom, that might happen pretty quick.
Keep your enemies close, your friends closer, and wait to find out which is which. By the gods, those were strange times,
Essie reminisced, staring into the middle distance for a moment, expression growing solemn before looking back down to her work again. And in an afternoon you were part of the family, Sapphire sighed, before glancing to Ray, who had stopped her sewing too, seemingly lost in thought. Sapphire prompted, causing Ray to look at her. Oh, I do not believe I have sworn an oath to Lady Bismarti yet. I am just a greenhorn after all.
Well, I am sure it will not take long for that to be remedied.
Esmeralda was quick to answer.
You have more than proven yourself a worthwhile addition, unlike some others I could care to mention.
Yeah, we have a few other visitors at the moment. Some extended family over to visit, like that one bastard uncle everyone seems to have. Sapphire chuckled, as she suddenly dismantled her work once more. You should invite Ignis to come visit us sometime next year. Essie stopped to consider for a moment at that, lost in thought.
I would quite like that, yes, but I am sure she is very busy with her shop. So many customers, and it won't be any less in the new year, I am sure. She keeps busy.
Who is Ignis? Ray questioned apologetically.
My sister. She runs a potion shop back in the capital. I owe her the fact that I can get out of bed in the morning.
Tom, too. I think that was reason enough to fly her out to say thanks, isn't it? Sapphire asked quite leadingly.
I would rather help her than harm her business. I do not think she has anyone else to help, at least not that she has mentioned in her letters.
I suppose that is fair. Maybe we'll just have to come to her then. Surely we'll have to go to the city next year, right? Or will we just get everything delivered?
Who can even say at this point, but I would certainly not be against going.
Me neither. I am still a little upset I never heard back from Viper, or any of the others at Vulture. I suppose I shall simply have to go there one of these days.
Yes. Fengi talked of your little plan. We best have the uniforms all tidied up for that, shouldn't we? Essie teased.
It was hardly surprising Fengi had confided in Esmeralda. They were very close, after all. Nor did Sapphire mind. There wasn't anything wrong with wanting to rub the noses of those who kicked her out, in the fact that she was doing just fine without them, even if she had already managed that quite handily during her racing days. What? Don't tell me you do not wish to arrive in a silken dress on Dragonback to be led down the wing by the hand? Sapphire chuckled, Essie shaking her head bemusedly, as Ray seemed to slip into a daydream.
I believe we shall be doing the leading, Sapphire, though I suppose for the one day we could ask Dakota to swap places. Or perhaps she could stay at home just the once.
Ha! Now that would be a fun day. Someone is coming, Sapphire noted, ear turning towards the door, followed soon by her gaze just before there was a knock.
Come in,
Esmeralda replied in a raised voice. The door opened, revealing Tink of all people, and he held one of Tom's tools with a most unpleasant-looking device on the end of it.
"Pipe layer is here! Where would the ladies like the hole?" he declared,
enthusiastic as ever. They all stared for a moment, and Essie cleared her throat.
Excuse you?
"For the heating pipe! I have to drill a hole in the wall! Where would you like it?"
Oh, in the wall, I suppose?
Good thinking!
Tom, you do understand that if this doesn't work, we will have spent more metal on running useless tubes throughout the entire keep, and drilled more holes than I could ever better count. Yes? Shiva questioned quite pointedly, as Tom and Adita pumped the loop full of freshly distilled water. Tom probably shouldn't tell Shiva right now, but he had ground up a few silver coins and put them in there as well, hoping to keep it from coming alive if it ever sat for too long. They had already filled the main heating loop which ran throughout the keep. They had needed to deal with a handful of leaks, and the amount of water that was needed felt quite excessive. Of course, that made sense when a substantial amount of said water had ended up on the floor inside Fengi's room and started dripping down into the library. A Pullman had nearly had a stroke, thinking his precious books were about to be destroyed, but they got it fixed. To calm the old man down and protect the collection, a drip tray had been installed in Fengi's room just in case this happened again. And if it works, you're never going to sleep again for winter, or at least it'll be nice and comfy the rest of the time. We would also be able to wake up much earlier and spend less time in the morning acquiring a suitable temperature for your delicate work. You know what, Adita? I think that is the most engineer-like way I have ever heard a morning workout described. Thank you, sir. Tom resisted the urge to chuckle too much. It might hurt her feelings. I should have known there was some ulterior motive. Just having warm beds sounded way too good to be true, Jackie grumbled with mock outrage. And am I supposed to just cuddle the mattress instead? Well, we ain't turning it off, that's for sure. We haven't put in isolating valves. It is a shame, yes, but the cost in time would not be permissible. We have already spent so long on this project. Gosh, that feels too wild to say. A few months been a long time. What a world it is out here, Edita mused happily. Tom guessed rebuilding a bright lance, or whatever it was she had been doing before, was not the sort of project to get done in a fortnight. And they sure had learned how long magic took. Lancaster was still working on the enchantments for the water cooling system, and it had been weeks. She could only work so much in a day, though. Much like with Shiva's, magical talents had limits, and if you didn't want to be sleeping the whole day away, you didn't overdo it.
Yes, some would argue there are more important things. Neither a Chook nor Dakota can stay their questions of how far along we are.
Like Edita said, it will help people get more out of their days. It is not simply a waste of time, Tom replied, a touch defensively perhaps. He had wanted so desperately to actually make just some of the stuff he had promised himself, back when he first set about his project here at the Keep. It felt good to finally take one of the big items off the list. If it worked, that was. And it should improve safety as well. Soon the Latham mill may also be running off this engine, which would allow us to retire the Blitzgel fuel cells. While they are a most genius yet simple invention, they do pose a substantial risk.
I am sure the Nook will be pleased we shall not blow any more holes in the walls,
Shiva replied dryly. Tom knew her rather foul mood was more so to do with just how tired she was. They were all working hard, but none more than her. Save for, perhaps, Edita and Lancaster. He had no idea what they might be feeding Edita, though. She didn't seem to even care in the slightest. He supposed one might grow used to 14-hour shifts 7 days a week in time. He sure didn't wish to try, though. Well, fingers crossed this works. Or talons, I suppose. I think we're there, he declared, as water started trickling out of the vent hole and down the polished copper pipes. Tom stepped back and took a moment to admire the admittedly simple, but to his mind quite beautiful little machine. Pretty polished copper pipes, courtesy of Shiva, little gauges and valves, the boiler clad in wooden staves to improve insulation. He would get some actual paint for the engine at some point, maybe dark green. It would go well with the copper. And heavens knew most of their machines could do with a lick of paint, even if the oil kept the rust away.
So what's next then?
Light the fires and spin the tires. Time to see if this works.
But, Tom, there are no tires. Are you referring to the flywheel?
Edita asked concerningly. No, just a saying. Tulbage med a har se evikat.
That didn't clarify much. I am sorry.
Tom just chuckled. Gonna need to make a pamphlet on sayings. Time to fly or crash. Something like that.
Ah, I see. Very well. Let us begin.
The process of raising steam was a lengthy one, much as it had been for all their pressure tests and other minor test runs. The engine had spun before, but never with anything to pull. Its first duty would be the water pump, which had itself never run before. Even now Tom could see the seals weeping a touch. His kindred back at Grunfrost would be most displeased. As the fires were lit, the handful of people who had worked on the project watched on, first in silence, but then the chatting broke out. A break at last. No one eager to get back to what they were doing.
So, Tom, did you ever find that book, actually? Sapphire asked for it. Something about lots of numbers. Something statistics?
Statics. Not quite the same thing, and no, I have no idea where it might be at. Little bit concerning. I'm gonna need that one pretty soon.
Skitters probably has it.
Balathon is still searching for that little bastard, running around calling for it, Jackie chuckled. Doesn't even know its name. He's just calling up, hoping he will hear a thunk somewhere.
Do you not have a version upon your thinking machines?
Edita questioned, seeming quite uninterested in the winged lizard. Oh, probably, or at least something similar. Still, a proper book is nice to have, and it doesn't use power.
Oh, yes, naturally. Might I suggest that in the new year Sapphire receives some help in her work? I looked at some of the pages she produced and...
The artificer suddenly seemed uncharacteristically timid. Quite unlike her, really. They weren't the best? Tom questioned with a raised eyebrow.
Correct, sir. Perhaps some more academian could be sourced for the task.
Or the actual archivist we have running around could pull her weight. How about that?
Jackie questioned, without any concern for tact. We'll see in the new year. For now, she is learning, more so than doing, Tom replied, perhaps saying the quiet part out loud. I'm sure it will turn out great in the end. Maybe we can have her oversee a whole gaggle of those folks. You never know.
Ah, yes. I did want to propose a department of the factory be given over to the handling, copying, and editing of text and design documents, Adita added with a nod, clearly seeking his approval.
Separate building, I feel. We will need every square meter, and it will be loud, dirty, and a not insignificant risk of fire.
Best hire that white dragon buddy on permanently, then,
Jackie added with a chuckle, receiving a few glances from those around the room. Who, Galaxa? I suppose we could, Tom replied, playing dumb. I know he doesn't mind working with the Inquisition, which is a plus.
I am sure someone could be requisitioned,
Adita added, with a convincing smile on her face. Tom didn't actually think she had worked out anything at all concerning Nick and Alsara, and he saw no reason not to keep it that way.
It might be better if they, fit inside,
Jackie pushed, to Tom's slight annoyance.
Oh, do not worry. There are many very young dragons in the service. They are much more numerous and less valuable than their venerable counterparts,
Adita responded, without even a shift in tone. Jackie just coughed once.
Right.